Good morning, everyone. I'm Tricia Mansfield at the Department of Workforce Services, and welcome to today's virtual training series. Today's session is Master the Tools of HireWYO, which was designed for both job seekers and employers. So we'll walk through the tools and resources available through HireWYO and show you how to make the most of them. The virtual training series is built around topics that you want to hear about. So be sure to check out our website, dws.wyo.gov/BTS for upcoming sessions, registration, and past recordings. And we'll be sure to drop that link in the chat as well. Today's session is being recorded and the presentation materials will be available on our website within a few days. And if you have any questions along the way, please be sure to drop them in the chat and we will save time at the end for the presenters to answer them. And with that, let's get started. So please join me in welcoming today's speakers. We have Trevor Mansfield, Deputy Administrator, and Joe Underwood, Senior Project Management Analyst with our Program Compliance team. And we're going to begin with Joe. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks, Tricia, for the introduction. So today I'm going to be going through job seeker tools and the job seeker accounts. So we'll go ahead and jump on in. So today, like I said, we're going to be going over the HireWYO job seeker accounts. So Hire Wyoming is Wyoming's labor exchange system. So this is designed by DWS to be a public online platform to connect DWS staff to Wyoming employers and Wyoming job seekers. This is also a safe and vetted job board, meaning that the internal job openings posted here are vetted by Workforce Center staff to try and connect job seekers to local employers without having to navigate large-scale job sites like Indeed.com. So we'll go ahead and jump on in and look at the job seeker account registration. Job seeker registration takes between 5 to 10 minutes and covers basic data entry for the job seeker's info, such as basic information like creating your login, your password, entering your name, going through demographic info, contact information, your citizenship and any disability info that you elect to share, education and employment information, and finally, some additional questions about employment barriers. Job seekers can utilize the basic search functions of the site, but to access all features and all tools, an account must be created. So like we said, registration takes between 5 and 10 minutes. And then once registration is complete, the user can go ahead and log in to their account by entering their username, which is their email, and then their self-created password. Right, so next that brings us to the landing page, and that's that job seeker's homepage. On the homepage, we can see the on-demand services, other services by DWS. We see our local news and announcements for job fairs and hiring events. We see our job search, which is the main bread and butter of the site. And then up in the top corner, we see additional links to the resource site, contact us page, our internal system notifications, and the ability to go to our profile. So let's start by going to the profile. All right, so on the job seeker's profile, we see we have several different cards that we can go in and edit and update our information. This is really where the job seeker builds their digital employee profile. So ensuring that your demographic info and contact info is updated is always recommended. And then going further into the cards to add specific information about yourself as well. So looking at the next cards, such as the skills, technologies, and summary card, this is where the job seeker would list specific employment-related skills, technologies they're comfortable using, and different summaries for previous positions held. The employment history is where job seekers can add his or her work history and specify dates that the employment history has been held. And the education card is for adding any formal education and or training. So in this card, job seekers can also place certifications or different licensures that they have. Finally, we look at our resume card, and this resume card allows the job seekers to upload their resume, but also if that skills card and that employment card are filled out as well, job seekers can elect to put their profile online. And what this does is this marks the job seeker's account to be online for the employer's candidate search tool. So employers can access the system and search for job seekers based off of occupations, education, and skills to look at filling their open positions. Next, we want to look at kind of the contact us and the job seeker guide. So the job seeker guide can be found in the footer of every page. And then we also saw that contact us question mark link up in the top right corner. This gives the user access to all of the Workforce Center information for them to contact a local workforce representative for assistance, as well as access to that job seeker guide explaining all the functions of the site. Next, we're going to switch over to job search. So the job search, like I was saying earlier, is the main kind of bread and butter of the site. This is where a lot of the job seekers spend time. And this is where we are really trying to utilize that connection of employees to local employers. So that first field of your job search is where you're going to type in those keywords for the jobs you're looking for. That can include any kind of keyword, such as skills that you have or skills that you're looking to fill in a position, certifications, licenses, anything that would be found in the job description or within that job title. That second field is for your location. So where are you looking for those jobs? And then when you specify that location, the result field is going to default to a radius of 35 miles. Once we do our job search, we can see that we have additional filters there. So we can filter and kind of narrow down our search results by looking at education level, date that the job was posted, salary, or location radius if we want to expand or decrease that 35-mile default. Additionally, we have a filter on there that we can pull in external jobs. So selecting this will pull in additional jobs to the job feed from Indeed.com, the National Labor Exchange job board, as well as NeoGov for state jobs. Using the sort feature, you can sort jobs from newest to oldest and then browse. And then using the how to apply button to take action on posts that you're interested about. Again, a note on external jobs, since they are coming from external sites, when you click on those will link you out to an external website to complete that external application process. So you found a job that's interesting and you want to take action on it. So applying for that job would be the next piece. So clicking on that apply button to learn more about the job. Internal jobs will be specified by the employer of how that application is. Typically, for internal jobs, the application will be a resume submission, but it can also include filling out their application on their own site or calling the employer directly. When you locate a job you'd like to apply for, really following those instructions to ensure that application process is complete is the best process. With those job searches, we now have job alerts. So job seekers can go into that job search. Once they've specified their job search, they have this create alert job button. With that job alert, what they will do is they will create that notification, which will be either an internal notification or an email notification. That gets sent out to the job seeker each time a new job meets those specifications. The job seeker guide has a very detailed user guide on how to use job alerts. So I encourage everyone to take a peek at that and set up some alerts for their current searches. And then real quick, just kind of a pause to talk about some of the warning signs of job scams or fraudulent job offers. It's always best to be aware of these when you are searching for jobs. So looking for the warning signs and red flags, such as high pay for minimal work qualifications, request for upfront payments or for cashing checks, being asked sensitive information early on in the hiring process or before you've even had an interview, or unsolicited text messages asking you about positions you haven't even applied for. It is important to be proactive and to check on employers to secure your information. So if you have some of those unsolicited texts or offers for jobs, of doing due diligence and researching that company online, throwing in words like scam or complaint to broaden those search results and see what other users have reported. Never depositing a check from a potential employer. This is one of the most readily available job scams, is to deposit a check from an employer to kind of start your upfront fees to work from home. And then keeping all of your personal identity and banking information secure, so not including that on your resume or in initial conversations with employers. And then kind of remembering the old adage of if it sounds too good to be true, then it probably is. And lastly, on safe job searching, kind of like we mentioned at the beginning, since this is a DWS controlled site, we do vet the employer accounts. So every new employer that registers does go through a vetting process by DWS staff. And then past that, job orders are also vetted to ensure that they meet all of the standards of a fair standards job report. Lastly, we're going to look at the resource site. So this is an all-encompassing kind of toolkit for job seekers. That's found in that top right corner resources menu link. From the resources site, there's lots of different tools that job seekers can access. Some of the main ones are kind of the toolkit and the training tools. So with that, we have an interview simulation trainer. We have mock job applications and e-portfolios that you can set up. You can work on creating cover letters and thank you letters. We have professional development modules that work through different soft skills, such as conflict resolution and communication strategies. And then we also have some like professional growth occupation research kind of inventories where you can work through questionnaires to see if there's a different occupation that you might be suited for. And then finally, we have our powerful resume builder. So that's where job seekers can go in, enter all their personal resume information, and then have that formatted into different resume templates. That kind of concludes the bulk of the job seeker tools. I wanted to thank everybody for swinging by today and listening to that. And I will be turning it over to Trevor to talk about the employer tools.
Real quick, Joey did have one question for you. How does AI work on making a resume?
So we don't have AI features included in the resume builder or in the site at this time, but we are working very closely with our site vendor to develop those and have those on the roadmap for early rollout coming pretty soon this fall, I believe.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Joe, and walking through the job seeker part of it. As Joe mentioned, this is a labor exchange. So the purpose and intent of this is to help employers connect with potential job seekers. And so the other side of things are employer accounts. So we wanted to walk through that side of things and then talk through the candidate search, which can help employers be proactive in their search for new employees. So if you're an employer who is not yet registered in HireWYO, there's a process for verification that we go through. As Joe mentioned, our staff are diligent in making sure that we have employers in the system that are legitimate and offering legitimate jobs. So when an employer goes to register, they can do this by themselves, or they can reach out to their local workforce center for assistance in registering. Either way, they have to go through and provide information, and I'll show what information is needed in a couple slides. Once an employer registers their business, workforce center staff will review the information that they provided, look for any duplicate accounts for that business, and then reach out to the registering employer to verify the information with them. A couple of pieces of information that employers need include the tax ID or FEIN, and then the names on the account for the business must match the official business filings. So if you're a business that does business as a different name, you should make sure to list your business as the official name first, and then doing business as whatever that other name is that you're doing business. This information is helpful in review and allows the Workforce Center business reps to verify with the Secretary of State's business registration information. Additionally, we ask that you verify that the contact information you enter is correct, as this is what staff will use to reach out to you, and cross-reference with other resources out there to verify that it is legitimate. When you go to register, it's much like registering as a job seeker, what Joe showed. You go over that register button, and then there's a drop down that says as employer. The next three slides here just kind of show the information, and I'll talk through generally what you need so that you can be ready to register when you get to the site. So you need a login information for the person that's creating the account. It's going to be, first name, last name, their email, and then you create a password. Additionally, you need the company name, and this is where you would include the official name doing business as if you are a DBA. Then after that, it's the tax information. And if you have your unemployment insurance account number, please enter that as well, as that's a useful tool in the verification process. And some additional general company information is next. When you look at industry title, there'll be a drop down of information, and we just ask that you match that as closely as possible to what industry matches your business. We also ask for just general information, number of employees and the type of employer, and then if you're a federal contractor or not. Finally, the last question is if you're willing to hire remote candidates or not. And then the final part of the first page of the employer registration is your company profile. This is totally optional, but you can upload a company logo and have that displayed when your job postings are listed on the site, and enter a profile description of what your company does and a link to your website as well. The second step of the registration process is just contact information. So the primary location for the business, and then the primary contact information for who should be reached out to for further questions on this employer and through the verification process and job postings down the road. If you're unsure of what to enter at any point in this registration process, or you need more assistance in this, please know that our Workforce Center teams across the state are here and ready to assist you through that process. I mentioned through the registration that if you have your unemployment number, that it's great to enter it there. That is a piece that's verified in the process to ensure that you have coverage. This is done for a dual purpose, as these programs provide coverage and protection for both employers and employees. We want to make sure that Wyoming residents that are getting jobs are covered appropriately under these programs. Additionally, that FEIN is verified with the Secretary of State's office. And if there's any additional steps that need to be taken to ensure you're in compliance, the business representative will reach out to you from our workforce centers. Another piece, and Joe kind of hit on this in his presentation as well, is just making sure that employers and job postings are legitimate. We want to make sure that we are catching as much fraudulent job listings as possible. If you go to public job sites, they may allow more of these through than what we do, because we have that really good human contact point in our workforce centers. And they look for red flags. So this might be using a registered agent address instead of a physical location, or using just PO boxes and not listing out any physical locations for their offices. If staff identify any red flags with an employer, they will reach out. It may need some additional documentation or request an in-person meeting to verify the legitimacy of that employer. Now I'm going to shift our focus to the candidate search. The candidate search in HireWYO allows you as the business and employer to be proactive in your search for your future employees. There are many, a few ways that you can search and filter for people. So there's a keyword search where you can enter specific skills that you want. You can list out multiple skills. And it'll search for all of those throughout the profiles of the individuals that have their resume and profiles searchable in the system. The location search lets you narrow it down to specific areas if you're just wanting to search in a city. Additionally, there's an education filter where if you're just looking for somebody with a master's degree, as an example, you can limit the results to just showing people that have listed a master's degree in their history. Finally, there's a filter that you can select to search just for veterans. So if that's a hiring priority for your business, that's an option that you can do to filter out other job seekers and only see those veterans. Now this screenshot here shows the candidate search page when you first come to it. You can see the skills and keywords. I entered accounting there and Cheyenne. You do not have to enter both fields, but the more specific you are, the more tailored the list of candidates that you get will be to what you're looking for. I did want to mention when you enter skills and keywords into that field, they are exact matches. So if I search for accounting, I'm only going to get people that have accounting listed. But if I want accountants, that will not come up. However, I can search for accounting and accountants, and both of those results will come back with anybody that matches one or both of those terms. Additionally, I wanted to point out the vet button to the right of the search candidates button. When you hit that, that's that filter that will only show you the veterans that have identified themselves in the system. When the results come back from the candidate search, you can filter at that point by education level, which you can see circled in orange. The red circle there shows candidates that you may have already viewed. You can see on David's profile here, it shows viewed today. On Hunter's profile, there is no viewed date as that profile has not been viewed. Additionally, the green area will update with a couple dates. These are when the profile was last updated by the job seeker and when their resume was last updated. This is helpful to identify people who may be more actively searching for work versus those who may have older information in the system and may already be employed and not really looking to find new employment. Zooming into the right side of that individual, you'll see there's three options there. The save button on the left will save that individual to a short list that you can access from the candidate search profile. Contact, it'll open up a window that allows you to send a message directly to that job seeker in the system. And then view resume will open up a pop-up window that will allow you to review their resume. You can also print and download that resume if needed. When you're in that candidate search with the list of individuals that comes back when you search, if you click on their line, it'll open up a window that will show their work history, their education, and their skills. Additionally, you can see up in the top right that it'll have that save button, the contact, and view resume. So you can view that and take those actions from either screen. This is a great view to see any additional information that they may not have included on their resume. Back here on the main candidate search page, you can see that recently viewed list. There's a saved list and then contacted list. So anybody that you sent that message to, they will pop up on that list that you've already reached out to them. This candidate search, as I mentioned, is a great tool for employers who are really looking to take on an active role in searching for their next hires. And so we encourage you to get in there and try it out. And if you need assistance, please reach out to your local workforce center. And with that, we're on our last slide here. I just wanted to thank you all so much for joining Joe and I today as we talk through the registration processes for employers and job seekers, as well as many of the tools and resources that are available to each of the groups. I also wanted to mention, in addition to HireWYO, we do have workforce centers located in many cities throughout the state, and the staff in those offices are ready to assist you, whether you're a job seeker or an employer. The dedicated and knowledgeable staff in those workforce centers are a great resource no matter what stage you're in the process you're at, and they can offer additional tools and support outside of HireWYO to you as well.
All right. Thank you, Trevor and Joe. If anyone has questions, now is the time to put them into the chat. There, we do have a few questions. The first one is, how often do I have to update my personal information to job service?
I think I think this is a question related to somebody who may be on unemployment. And I would refer to the unemployment guide for that on if there's any requirements around what your requirements are for updating that.
Okay. Thank you. We did have a comment from David Harris. Vets are QEB status until they are enrolled into WP or possibly other programs, and then they have a flag. I don't know if you can maybe expand on those acronyms too, Trevor, just so that everyone can know what that's about.
Yeah, so specifically within our veterans program, there's a term QEB, which stands for Qualified Employment Barrier, which basically just means it's an individual who's a veteran who has a barrier to employment. And so that was the one. Tricia, I don't remember what the other acronym you said was.
WP, I think, is that Wagner Pizer?
Yeah, WP is just one of our internal programs that we use. Wagner Pizer services are basic career services that are available to any job seeker.
Okay. Thank you. Our next question is, how many contacts can I make to applicants?
There is no limit to the number of contacts you can make. We do have some safety parameters in place to ensure that there's no fraudulent abuse of the system. I don't think it's appropriate to disclose what those are, as that's a security feature. However, if you're going through the course of normal business in contacting or looking at resumes or reviewing potential applicants, I do not believe that those limits would be hit through normal activity.
Our next question I can actually answer. Will the recording be available after the presentation? And the answer is yes. We will. The recording and any of the materials from the slides will be available on our website within the next few days, and we'll also email those out as well. We had a follow-up. You mentioned if they filter on veterans, they will see job seekers with flags. They will not see QEB ?
Joe, do you know on that one?
Yeah, and the QEB indicator is only for staff-facing functions, so that shouldn't impact the employer at all. They should just be seeing that veteran flag if someone's indicated on their profile that they have a veteran history or military history.
Okay. How do we get events announced, such as job fairs, information center, or information sessions, and etc.?
Yeah, the best way to do that would be to reach out to your local workforce center and coordinate with the business reps in those offices, and then those business reps can reach out internally to get those events listed on the site.
Okay. How does a candidate know know that they have been contacted? Is it by phone, by email, or a notification in HireWYO?
Yeah, the candidate will receive a notification in their HireWYO account, and then if in their account they have email specified as a contact option as well, it should be sending an email in tandem with that internal notification.
Thank you. Do you have an estimate on how many users HireWYO has so far?
I don't have those numbers handy. But if somebody wants to know that, they can certainly use the HireWYO email that's on the website and reach out to learn more about the number of job seekers or employers.
I'm not seeing any other questions now, but we can just give it a minute just to see if anything else comes through. And as we wait, oh, here's one. How do I search for jobs by industry on the website?
And currently, the way to search for jobs through industry would be specifying that through the keywords. We are looking at adding some additional filters that would help kind of filter down by industry or by like North American industry code kind of classification.
Okay, and we have an update from David Harris. He said on the dashboard he sees 160,850 active participants. Thank you, David. Okay, we have a message. It says, our business has an active account set up long ago on HireWYO.com, but when they go in to log in, it says the credentials are invalid. Do they need to re-register?
That's a great question. So on that, I would recommend contacting the local workforce center so we can search it on our side and see if there's an old account in there that's archived that we can reactivate for the employer. Or if there truly is no account, then they can create a newly registered one. But it would be best to start with contacting a business rep at the local workforce center, and they can do that research for you.
Hey, I'm just giving it just a few more minutes to see if any other last minute questions come through. And Aaron did put in the chat a link to the workforce centers so you can find the workforce center nearest you. All right. So thank you, Trevor and Joe, for sharing your expertise and showing us how HireWYO can help employers and job seekers. And thank you, everyone who joined us today. We really hope that you found this session helpful and picked up some new ways that you can make the most out of our HireWYO platform. Let's see if there might be one last minute question. 1 second. Okay, I was having a hard time trying to find jobs based on the skills from her industry and her resume, and she's wondering if there's a way the site will be integrated with LinkedIn in the future.
Currently, we don't have any plans for any integration with any outside sites, but that's also not set in stone. So it could be something we explore.
Okay. Thank you. All right. And before we wrap up, we would love for you to take a quick survey about today's session. Your feedback really helps us improve our training, so we'd really appreciate any input that you have. And Erin has put that into the chat. In the next few days, we'll also be emailing out that recording and the presentation materials. And while you're completing the survey, we'll also be posting another link, which allows you to register for our next presentation, which is Let's Talk ADA. And that's on September 2nd. And this presentation is going to cover the fundamentals of the Americans with Disabilities Act, which includes employer responsibilities, reasonable accommodations, service animals in the workplace, and practical guidance for creating a compliant and accessible workplace. So make sure that you guys check out that link and get registered. And thank you again for everyone for joining us today, and we will see you in September.